All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me. First and foremost, let me know how the sound is coming through. Uh, Made sure my levels were up, maybe a little bit higher. I'll also try to stay a little bit closer to the mic. Just got a comment on last week's stream saying the audio was a little bit quieter, at least on the playback. So let me know. Pete, Raphael, Evan, Thinotrit. I can't remember if I got your official name. I'm still trying to remember everybody's names. Sound is great. Awesome. Good deal. Very good. What's up, Rakesh? Appreciate y'all being here. We've got two books here tonight that were sent in by Charles Thorpe. Red. Oh, perfect. Now I get it. I'll call you Red. LTK Photo, what's up? What's up, Matt? Appreciate that. My brother and I were just talking about last time I cut my hair. It was almost this long. The last time I grew my hair out, and I basically grew it out long enough to where I could pull it up, and then I just buzzed my head. So, I'm trying to hang in longer this time around. Let me adjust this exposure. Looks like that might be better. We've got two books here that were sent in just for us this week, just for us to take a look at. So big shout out to Charles Thorpe, friend of the channel. He sent these in. We've got American Denim by Matt Sharkey and Sons of the Living by Brian Scoopmott. So I'm excited to look at these with you guys today. I haven't looked at any of these, or either of these, I should say, before. So we're going to be looking at these together for the first time. So, oh yeah, the old headshot you had was also perfect. That was, man, yeah, been a long time. Matt, if you can explain a little bit which color filter you use for black and white film photography. So I personally don't use color filters that often for black and white film. Right when I got my M6, or at least like a month or so after I got my M6, I was using an orange filter on the Voigtlander 35 f2.5, which I actually just bought back from, or I didn't buy my old one back, but I haven't had that lens in a long time. That was my very first lens I got for my M6. And since I don't have a 35 for my M6 right now, and I've been really itching to just go out and shoot with just that for the day, or just carrying it with me, I went ahead and picked that lens up because for the price, that lens is a gem. So that was the first lens I got on my M6. But back then, I used to use an orange filter for a little while, just because I think at that point, I had always wanted to try it, and it just so happened to be around that time that I got the camera, and being able to use a rangefinder where I'm not looking through the colored filter itself. I think that was the other reason why I took that as an opportunity, because that was my first real 35 millimeter rangefinder. So that was one of the benefits of using colored filters with a rangefinder, is you don't have to try and look and focus through a colored view. So I was using an orange filter because I liked just the extra contrast, but that was orange filter on top of Tri-X, and now I like HP5 without any filters, and I honestly haven't pushed HP5, at least in 35 millimeter, in a while. I typically just find myself like nowadays just sticking to 400 because it's so flat and flexible that I can always add that contrast later. It's not something that I have to have right off the bat. But at the time, back then, I guess just not having the hindsight, I just thought I want that contrast like immediately, in the negative, which there's nothing wrong with that. Just tastes change over time. So I hope that makes sense or answers your question. If you can explain a little bit which color filter you use. I don't really use any. For me, I liked orange because it gave me a nice boost in contrast. Yellow filters, to me, I felt like didn't give me enough of a difference to warrant, carrying it around and or factoring it into the exposure if I weren't using the internal meter. But red is very dramatic. So a blue sky is going to go really, really dark with a red filter. And that looks cool. But for just like all around purpose, I felt like orange was a good middle ground between the two. So. Charles, what's up? Yeah, Charles is the one who sent in the books this week. So we're gonna be digging into those here in just a second. Pete, do you still have a medium format camera? Uh, no. Now that I think about it, I had to think. I'm like, do I have any? No, I don't have any medium format camera right now. That's like the most fun thing about film photography is just the variety in cameras. And I think the older I get, the more I'm going to make use of everything that film has to offer. Like right now, especially for stuff I've been shooting lately and also just like timing wise, the ability to just not be constantly backed up on film that needs developed has been really nice. And now Forrest starts preschool on Monday. Nora and Elliot go back to school tomorrow, and Forrest, he just turned 3, so it's like his first year of preschool. He'll do another year of preschool next year before kindergarten. But my day-to-day schedule for the first time in many years is going to be I'm just going to have more time. And so I'm like looking forward to developing and printing. I've been doing a lot more cyanotype prints lately, and I want to just get into more alternative process printing in general, and just doing more slower paced things that I love about film. So all that to say, I think in the future, I will see myself returning to probably various medium format cameras or 35 millimeter, maybe not 35. I say that, but you never know. But the M6 is like, it's always been my favorite. And then I have the FM2 as well for when I want to look through the lens and not use a rangefinder. And for 35, I feel like those two cameras are all I would really ever want to use anyway. But medium format, there's just so many different cameras and they're all so different to shoot that it just adds a different element to it. And certain lenses as well just have certain looks about them that that's a part of what makes medium format so fun, I think. Especially like when you are kind of first getting into film and like going down the rabbit hole. Once you get into medium format, your photos are gonna suck just as much as they always do. But the process itself and just enjoying that side of it, that's what makes it all so fun. Rakesh, do you think color filters are needed for digital sensors? I use a Z8. I personally, I mean, if you're using a monochrome only camera, not using a monochrome profile, but like a monochrome sensor, like that will work well with color filters. But if you're using a Z8, just do all of your black and white mixing in post. Take advantage of all the benefits of a digital setup like that. Do you need more contrast on Tri-X? I definitely didn't. I thought I did, or I mean, I wanted it. I didn't need more of it. Timothy, good to see you, brother. Strawberry, yeah, last week, I should mention, last week when I got on stream was when we had realized that Strawberry was missing and we couldn't find her. And was it Friday? I think it was Friday or Saturday. I can't remember which day, but she ran in the garage and she had definitely lost weight. Uh, Thankfully, big girl had enough to lose. She could afford losing a little bit of weight and not, withering away to nothing. So definitely needed food and water when she ran back in. I don't know where I'm thinking it was last Monday morning. I think Nora had let her out because Nora doesn't know any better. And I think maybe she went out when Nora went out into the garage, and I didn't realize until later that day. So yeah, all that to say, she's back. She already looks like herself. Actually, before we look at the books, let me share. Oh, here they are. That just reminded me. Let's see here. So she came home, and I immediately grabbed. Yeah, here they are. Grabbed the camera because Molly was getting her all cleaned up. Gave her a bath. She wasn't happy about it. Elliot was stoked. Poor kid was worried out of his mind. And I think, all this to say, I think she learned her lesson. She realized, I'm never doing that again. She just had this pitiful look on her face all evening, but she's doing better. Here's one. There we go. Maybe. Focus. There we go. Yeah. She's doing better now. So, appreciate you asking about her, Tim. Fujika 6x9 was awesome. That's one I never had, Benjamin. That's one that the 6x9, all the Fuji rangefinders really. I never had many of those. I'm gonna raise this up. Wait a minute. Why won't this scale up? There we go. Bring it in a little bit closer for you guys. So this is, again, shout out to Charles Thorpe. He sent over a couple of books we're going to be taking a look at. This is American Denim, the supposed final days and resurgence of a manufacturing icon. So Matt Sharkey, he's the one who made this book. Charles sent this over. He mentioned that, let me adjust this size here. He mentioned that me photographing the paper mill as it was shutting down, that this would resonate, and it absolutely does. So, super excited to look into this one. Matt is someone who I just met through mutual friends, I think earlier this year, late last year, sometime around there. So it's been awesome to not only know him now, but to see his work. Let me get in here. This is basically him photographing the end of a denim factory. So I can already tell just by the size of the book, he spent some serious time in here. LTK photo, love your Polaroids. Thank you. I appreciate that. Also, Matt, I'm just now seeing this one. The RZ67 I got to use in college made me fall in love with medium format. The level of detail is insane. Yeah, medium format 6x7 is probably my, I would say 6x6. If I could only pick one, it would probably be 6x6, but I feel like 6x7 just works really well for no matter what it is I found myself shooting, whether it be a portrait, a landscape. 6x7 just works. But I think the novelty of 6x6 is what would keep me choosing that if I could only pick one. See, the color on this is so... This goes into what I was kind of thinking with the paper mill photos. I've always gravitated towards black and white, but you lose so much of the atmosphere, I think, in a interior like this. There's something about that I don't think it would translate as much in black and white. Javier, what's up? You know, Benjamin, I'll have to ask. I'm not sure if this was on film or not. Um, it very well could be. It definitely has a look about it, but at the same time, uh, this could just be processed well, digitally. But I don't know. Some of this definitely has. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of this, like the shadows especially, are what make me think it really is film. Okay, Charles is saying it is shot on film. Very good. Man, that's awesome. 2017 calendar back here. I'm wondering. I haven't read the intro yet, but I'm wondering how much time uh, all of this was, from start to finish. Yeah, that's a good point. Javier says black and white is more striking, but it doesn't feel like a memory. That's a really good way to put it. I get that. I think when I see a photo, like if I notice something in particular that I want to take a picture of, I think in black and white. Um, but yeah, yeah, that's really well said. Because if I think of a memory, I don't think of it in black and white. Even if I were taking photos, or if I see a black and white photo, I guess I don't think in black and white. But when I see, why is that? That's really, it doesn't make sense, because when I see something, immediately I'm seeing it in black and white. Like if I'm interested in the photo. Yeah, that's interesting. It's how it feels. Oh, right on. Charles says, I believe he has an episode on the Photo Banner podcast where he talks about the project. I'll have to listen to that. Shout out to Alex. He's the man. Love him. Love the podcast. Carlos, I was just listening to the Matt Sharkey episode today from the Photo Banner podcast. He talked about this book a lot. Hell yeah. Well, everybody go listen to that, and I will do the same. Yeah, this has such a similar, the exterior of the building and everything. Like the inside obviously looks completely different from a denim factory and a paper mill. But just the overall industrial feel of everything, it's so similar. Love that tree growing through the tracks. Yeah, it's this week on let's see. Yeah, it was on Monday. Monday was, for a lot of people, like their first day no longer employed by the mill. There are still some people there for the next couple of weeks, like in small areas. Nothing like in the actual manufacturing of the paper anymore. But uh, yeah, it's coming to an end. There are already some there are some talks, and there have been some talks about the paper mill having a potential buyer. Um, the likelihood, I have no idea when that would actually happen and what that would look like for the people who have worked there. I don't know because there are already people who are done and moving on to the next chapter. So I really don't know what's going to happen next, but there is some hope that something will happen, and I don't know. I got a call from someone local here in town that was wanting to put together some kind of video that anyone downtown can use. Any of the chamber of commerce people, or I don't know, just anyone who can have information on the workforce that is in the area that's going to be ready for something, ready to work. We're going to try to put together some kind of video. I don't know. It's a lot of people in the community have really tried to figure out something. Like, there's only so much you can do. No one person is gonna, at least no one person here in Chillicothe is gonna go and save the mill. But a lot of people are really trying to do anything they can at this point. Yeah, Benjamin, that's a good guess. I mean, if I were shooting a project like this on film, that would be my go-to, would be Portra 400, just because of the reliability, the predictability. It's just a forgiving film, and it's got a lot of range, so it's like a safe bet for me anytime I was shooting anything, especially for work, and I was using film. Portra 400 would always be the first choice, just because of the reliability. But it's been a long time since I've used film for a project, or not for a project necessarily. That would have been Surveyor. But shooting color film for work, it's been many years. As a matter of fact, we have some Cinestill C41 chemicals that are ready to be mixed up out here that Tyler bought, because he's wanting to learn how to develop film. So we're going to be doing that this weekend, developing his film so he can learn the process of that. And it's C41. And he bought the little one of these here, this little sous vide for developing, for the chemicals. I've been looking at these on Amazon since he's been talking about this, and Tyler found one of these. Look at that, $7.99 at the thrift. Talk about a come up. So Tyler brought everything over. We're gonna be developing some film, and I was telling him today, I'm like, it's been 13 years since I've developed C41 film at home. That's how long it's been. So I'm going to need a little refresher when I start mixing up the chemicals. My son just developed his first roll we shot while we were on vacation. Dude nailed every exposure. Hell yeah, Dan. That's awesome. Oh, he says he did mention it was Kodak film on his Instagram, just not which stock. Right on. That makes sense. Javier, no worries, man. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, I'll pour a glass of Blix with my steak. Damn, I wonder how many rolls of film he burnt through on this, because damn. Yeah, this is Pete that says the empty chairs are sad. Yeah, this is a different feel. There were obviously areas of the mill that I was photographing that didn't have people, but still in operation, seeing empty places, yeah, like that. That's wild. Damn. That's crazy. There are control rooms and things like this at the paper mill as well that like seeing the change in technology and how these places are run and how the machines are run and seeing like the merging of that where half of a machine is wired up for things, maybe in the 70s and 80s, and then other stuff as things went more digital as time went on. It was really interesting seeing like the juxtaposition of that. Wow. Oh, wow. Scott says, stunning photos. There was a former Mead paper mill in my hometown that closed down also. Where are you from, Scott? Or where was the hometown where the Mead was? All through my childhood, it was Mead. So then it got bought out by Glatfelder in the late aughts, if I remember right. Uh, and then what was it after that? I can't remember. Oh, Kingsport, Tennessee. I can't remember what it was after Glatfelder and before Pixel, but it sucks, man. Already just like walking by the mill or driving by without everything running, like driving past it on the street, it's so much quieter. It's really, really weird. When I was a kid, my babysitter, who I mean, she was babysitting me and my brother both when we were like 6 weeks old. That was when she started watching both of us, and it was right next to the mill. And so hearing it, or not hearing it at all, has just been a trip. Oh, right on. Contact 645. That would explain the quality, because I thought the resolution, not the resolution, but the just the overall image quality and sharpness and detail and everything. I thought that's, especially in a lot of this light, 35. That'd be pretty impressive if 35 looked that good. 645 makes way more sense. No, it wasn't Willamette. Shoot, I can't even think. Maybe it went from Glatfelder to Pixel, but I don't think so. I feel like there was one more in there. Man, that's awesome. That's super cool. Right on. American Denim by Matt Sharkey. check this one out. There is a lot more information inside the book that I'm not going to read to you all evening. But I'm excited to sit down more with this one, as well as check out the podcast. A couple people here said that he did an episode with Alex Gagne, the photo banner. How's the video looking for you guys? Is the video here, it's dropping all sorts of frames on my end. So before we get started, let me check. Okay, we're good here when I jump back to this camera. It's looking rough here. Lag? Yeah? You are seeing it? Alright, cool. We're gonna try something. 1 minute. Hey, better now? Now, or is it behind now? I have no idea. Let me know if it just messed up the timing. Make sure this is plugged in. I think we're good now. As long as you guys can hear me. I know you can. It's good over here. We've got, let's see. There we go. No, I think it is something on my end, but you're not going to be looking at me anyway. Still sounds crisp. We're going to run it. Everybody hold on to your pants. We've got Sons of the Living by Brian Schuetmott. I remember hearing him say it in an interview once, and now I forget. But it's one of those, I think. And he makes great books, so I'm excited to look at this one. Wow. So immediately I love these X's or crosses, whichever, right here, and this one light spot, standing out on the wall like that. Wow. Would love to see more Trespasser books in the future if you have any. Yeah, actually, let me see. I'm trying to remember if Brian's book, Good Goddamn, is If that was Trespasser or if that was before Trespasser, I can't remember, but I have that. We'll take a look at that after this. Yeah, absolutely, Benjamin. I found that when I was inside the paper mill, just how, you know, drastically different the light was in some spots. Oh, I bet that was amazing, Carlos. Seeing Brian's work in person in print would be ideal. Was that okay? I wondered. Evan says, I believe that's the first Trespasser release. I was trying to remember. I'm like, I feel like it was around that time, but wow. Always love his portraits. Hey, thanks for joining the stream, man. Bamron. The way these look like they're actual lights or something, you know what I mean? It's wild. I hope they eventually reprint Graze the Mountain Sin someday. Yeah, I don't have that one either. Let me look here. Or wait, do I? No, I have. Yeah, Islands of the Blessed, which, if I remember right, is all like archive photos. Yeah, this one here. Which is also rad. But yeah, I do not have Graze the Mountain Sin. Oh, right on. I'll have to check that interview out, Julian. Yeah, Langer. I do have Langer. That's a beautiful book. Pretty sure. I think someone tried to buy it once. Yeah, no, I've still got it. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure someone tried to buy it, and I said I wanted to keep that one. That lens flare, like, circling over this spot, that looks That caught me off guard. Wow. That also, I feel like that photo really is jarring. Like in contrast, in comparison to everything else so far, it was a really jarring photo. Almost missed it. Went to my local farmer's market, got some photos. 85 millimeters, definitely not made for street and quick moments. Definitely not. I saw a reel yesterday, I think it was. Someone shooting sidelines at a game, and they had like a 70 to 200 or longer on their lens, and then the team comes like rushing up on the sidelines, and it's this just obviously photo worthy moment, and they're standing there like basically just getting really close up shots of each person's face individually, and it's like those are the things that just make your stomach turn when stuff like that happens as a photographer. When shooting in a factory setting, factory situation that you like that, do you underexpose slightly to not blow out the lights and then try to recover some shadow detail in post? If I for me, yes, that's typically what I would do. I'm always trying to protect the highlights when I'm shooting digitally, but for Matt Sharkey's sake and the American Denim, with that being on film, the likelihood of him blowing out any of the highlights would be pretty tough because film has such a good highlight retention. It's kind of the opposite. With film, your shadows are going to lose detail quicker than your highlights, whereas with digital, it's much easier to lose highlight detail before you lose shadow detail. So with digital, you kind of err on the side of underexposure to be safe, and it's the opposite with film. At least color negative film. I should be very specific with that. With black and white, I'd say still your highlights are going to hold up better. Not quite as much as a color negative film might, but you can still overexpose black and white film, without worrying too much about losing your highlights. But that, of course, also depends on the light itself, the intensity of the light, the dynamic range of the entire scene. There are so many different factors that it makes it tough to say definitively it's one way or the other. You know what I mean? I feel like every question, there's some nuance there that, like, well, it depends, So, but typically, that's how I would go about it. Also, I'm as I'm sitting here flipping through this and reading the chat and watching the camera and making sure, producing things over here. I find myself always being conscious of the pacing and everything, and I'm curious for all of you, what are your thoughts on books, not just for live streams? Like, I'm not looking for feedback on this because we're here anyway, but at least for your own enjoyment, are you a fan of books that are longer or books that are uh, obviously shorter. Like the reason I'm asking is because the two books that we've got tonight are very dense books, meaning like that's that's a lot of pages for a photo book. Not necessarily, because there are books much longer than this. It's all subjective, but uh, they're both, pretty substantially sized books. And I'm curious, some people have their preference where less is more. Some people think if you're going to make a book, load the thing up as much as you can. Um, Curious what your thoughts are when you're, you know, flipping through your own books. Hey, Evan, what's up? This is it's Brian Scootmott, Sons of the Living. Sorry, I got distracted. I see a cricket crawling on the floor, coming over here near me. Also, if anyone saw the video of the flooding very close to the barn, got the ditch dug out yesterday, and I don't think we're going to have to worry about that much anymore, so that makes me feel better. The longer books are nice. I would say more is better because you don't really have to start at the beginning like a traditional book. Some people might only like the last half or the beginning or the middle. Brian, what's up, Brian? Good to see you. It says, I like a long book if it's an epic project like this, but some projects are better shorter. Majority of the books I have are on the longer side, though, and I don't mind. I feel that. That's kind of like, it depends on the book and on the work, so that makes perfect sense. I had to really think about that one for a minute, but I'm going to say longer books. Dan says, I'm good with either. I'll tend to spend a few days flipping through bigger books, especially in the cost. And the shorter ones I'll flip through a couple times over a week. Yeah, I definitely think that's the sitting down and digesting the book in one sitting. I think that's like, there are some books I have that I still have never once sat down and flipped through from start to finish in one sitting because it's just too much. You know what I mean? And I think, yeah, for things like this where it's a much more expansive, selection of photos and not so, I don't know, there's room to breathe and stuff like this, so it makes sense. But then at the same time, I also, I'm constantly, at least with my own photos, not necessarily other people's, with my own, I'm always trying to think about cutting more out and doing as much as I can with as little as possible, if that makes sense. Not that that's the driving, goal, but I think I worry on my own about, is overstaying, if that translates, you know what I mean? Not like every viewer is just sitting there watching the clock like, all right, I better be able to flip through this in however many minutes, but you know what I mean. and also the subject matter, or maybe not just the subject matter, but the way Brian makes photos. It's also like, again, talking about earlier, seeing his photos in print, I feel like I would love to see really large prints of his because I could spend so much more time with individual photos, if that makes sense. The end here, it says, I pull out my sleeping bag and lie down. Time thickens. I doze and wake and doze again in the ooze of it. I dream of brother. Sadness enlarges in me. What is it that I want? I want a spring that won't run dry, pears bending the branches of the trees, a kind God and time that doesn't run out. Matt, do you like your photo books with just photos or with words tied to the photos? I think it depends on the work itself, or the photos themselves. Okay, this says, I took these photos in the deserts of the American West. I wandered highways, small towns, and vast expanses. I picked up many hitchhikers who told me extraordinary things. In the end, I spent 154 days on the road spread out over 10 years, 2014 to 2023. Damn. That is... Yeah. I mean, I think County Road is my favorite book of his because it feels the most familiar to me in terms of the landscape. So maybe it's just like my natural bias towards it, but I don't know. If you could only have one book of his, this might be the one. Let me go grab Good Goddamn, though, because that's an older one, but it's a gem. Now, to answer the question, or to come back to the question on, do you like your photo books with just photos or words with the photos? It really is going to depend on the book and the work, I guess. For instance, Matt Sharkey's book, American Denim, we just looked at. Each one, each spread in there had some context at the bottom to tell you what the location of the photo, like what that specific room was for, or the people in the photos. And I think for something like that, it makes perfect sense, and you're giving context that, especially for the people who know that place, I mean, also for people who don't, people can learn from it, but at the same time, my mind goes to the people working there are going to be able to have that sort of context in mind, you know what I mean? And that's going to play a role in just viewing the work. What is this? Is this a print? Some of these I've had for so long that I don't remember when they come with a print or something. Damn. I don't even remember the last time I would have unfolded this. This book I've had for a while. I mean, since it came out. So I might need to get this framed. For now, I'll set it off to the side. All right. Man, I've always loved just the way this book was made. These big 3 staples. Awesome. All right. So this was the first book of his that I ever bought, and what made me love his work. It's a Townes Van Zandt song or poem, maybe. In regards to the question about photo books with photos or just words with the photos, this also, you'll see the way that the context being provided after the work. That's something that I always I think, lean towards. If I were to give context in any way, I kind of like doing it after the photos have been viewed. Um, just a personal preference thing, but I think it just, you're not necessarily viewing it any particular way or with any particular idea when you begin. You just kind of like let yourself discover it photo by photo, and then getting the context afterwards. I just find that when I am flipping through a book for the first time, I think I enjoy that aspect more, so that's why I like it more. Again, with anything I say about zines, books, photography in general, it's just I share what I like. Doesn't mean it's the right way or the correct way or whatever. Um, you know, just try to share how I respond to photography, if that makes sense. So I shot these photos in Leon County, Texas, over the course of 10 unseasonably warm days in February 2017, just prior to the imprisonment of my pal Chris, who's pictured on these pages. This publication is for him, the fire he keeps burning, and the new world that awaits. So sometimes it can be as simple as that, as little as that, in terms of the words or the context. It tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, that's good goddamn. And I love everything about this one. You can kind of see in the cover there, maybe you can see some fading from the sun from being on the shelf all these years. It came out 8 years ago. Crazy. And then, let's see. Julian, I believe it was Julian that was saying, let's get some Langer going. One sec. There we go. Personally, I like the context at the beginning. I appreciate having the context in mind with the photos, and the book usually resonates more with me. Otherwise, I feel like I'm looking at random photos. I get that, and that's totally valid. Like I said, everything is all personal preference. So this is Langer by Donovan Smallwood. This says, Ode to CP Central Park. No matter how estranged I become, the luster of my gaze will never fade. From flesh to nerve, I love you. This book is beautifully printed, beautifully bound, in that it's a bigger book, but everything just lays nicely. Always a joy to flip through. Pretty sure this photo, I think Donovan just got this photo submitted into maybe like the national, some collection of portraits, I believe, and rightfully so. It's a beautiful one. It's one of those that, like, that when I think of this book, this photo, I can picture it, I think, every time. So these are photos from Central Park. My one time in New York, I wasn't there, so maybe next time. And this is one of those books that the more, I guess, traditional sense of just letting the photos speak for themselves and just formatted really classically like this, you know, in terms of the layout and everything. It's just a really enjoyable, let the work speak for itself. Individual photos, let them live, you know, with enough space on their own. Daniel asks, when taking portraits of random people, does the thought of that person probably never seeing the final result of the photo or the project it might be attached with ever come to mind when taking them? I can't speak for Donovan, but a lot of people, I mean, myself included, if I'm ever making a photo of someone, which I don't do often, you know, people that I just happen to come across, I try to now more than I used to. Um, Real quick, I'm going to read this here. I made these photographs between the spring and autumn of 2020. Each day I woke around sunrise and wandered Central Park, accompanied by a plume of memories, thinking of what the park has meant for me all of my life, thinking of Seneca Village, thinking of escape, thinking of home. I grew up wanting to be an archaeologist. I was always interested in mysteries and uncovering the truth, that which has been lost literally and metaphorically. I remember my first time reading Proverbs 25:2, stating that the glory of God is to hide a thing and the glory of man is to find it. For what reason? The sense of urgency and curiosity felt then has yet to wane. D.S. Donovan Smallwood. Uh, Beautiful book. Langer. Who published this? Trespasser. Makes sense. I didn't even remember that Trespasser were the ones who published this. Beautiful, beautiful book. If you get a chance to scoop this one up, if you ever see it, yeah, it's a gem. Glad you like that. Daniel, though, when taking photos of random people, most people, at least I think, myself included, would always make sure that that person will get a chance to see the photo when it's done, and also letting them know if it's going to end up somewhere. I feel like that's probably just common practice for most people. If not, I would encourage it, because that's part of the shared experience of making a photo of somebody, is that providing them with it as well. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Yeah, well said. Very beautiful portraits. The break of nature makes each portrait stand out. Yeah, the pacing of a book like that is important, or at least that's where sequencing really comes into play in terms of the pacing. I think it can sometimes be easy to just go like you're linking things in a chain. Like, this photo has got to connect to this one, and then that's got to connect to this one, and that's got to connect to this one, and it's like this ongoing thing. But um, trying to think about like the time in those sections, if you're gonna break it up into like different feelings like that, and subject matter and just overall atmosphere, like, think about the pacing of flipping through the book, not necessarily clicking next, on the computer or something. So uh, yeah, stuff like that, it makes a big difference in the end. So um, oh, I was gonna show a couple more Polaroids. Actually, if I don't, let me see if I have those ones out here. Those are inside. Never mind. But been shooting a lot more Polaroids lately, and leaving the house. Someone on stream, I think last week or the week before. If it was you, let me know. Someone was asking if I ever leave the house with just an instant camera. Um, and I was like, no, I never really do that. I always grab at least a digital or a 35 millimeter camera plus an instant camera, but never leaving the house with just an instant camera. And I've tried doing that a couple times over the last week. Haven't gone many places over the last week. This is the official last day of summer break for the kids, at least for the two big kids. So my schedule has been with the kids around the clock for months. So it's going to be really weird. It's always weird getting out of the summer routine and like kids getting back to school, and remembering what it's like to have like any time to yourself, but without the youngest as well. Yeah, I'm probably gonna spend a lot of time walking with my camera, because otherwise I'll drive myself crazy with nothing to do. So maybe we'll start doing some videos during the school day, where I'm just walking around in between dropping the boys off and then picking them up from school. So maybe we'll start doing some more just walk around. I've been thinking about doing that, just more like walk around, answering questions while I'm walking around. I try to save that for like the live streams when people have questions, but at the same time, I don't know. When I'm walking around, sometimes I need something to listen to, or I need something to like keep me out there, or else it's too easy for me to talk myself out of it. So they go back very early there. Here in New Jersey, kids go back the very end of August or after Labor Day. That's how it was when I was growing up. They go back way earlier now than at least by a week, if not more, than like the school I went to when I was growing up. Molly, hi honey. Molly's in the chat. She says, I have lots of dishes and laundry for you to do, just saying. That's never going to change. That's always going to be. With our children, it never ends. The amount of clothing changes from each kid. Not Forrest. Forrest is usually in his diaper. Maybe a diaper and a t-shirt. But he's a wild man. But Elliot and Nora, it's constant. But yeah, I think more videos out, just kind of walking and shooting and sharing in the process. Probably going to be able to do more of that, as well as just being able to stay up on film developing as well. That's also going to be nice. So, let's see. Matt was looking at my bookshelf a minute ago and saw Nathan's Chilpeco book. Have you talked to him recently? How is he? I have. He's well. Trying to think. It was maybe July. It might have been June, actually. It might have been June when he was last out here. Me, him, and Josh Cheney and Tyler, we all got together. I think it might have been in June. But he's well. He's married. He's doing his thing. When you get older, it's like all of my friends. It's like I'll catch up with him when I see him and keep up with him that way. But we schedule our hangouts a month in advance because that's how life goes. But there's so many photo books to read. That's true. I will actually be able to spend more time looking at the books. I think I've mentioned it on here before. The majority of the time I get to spend with the photo books these days is Wednesday nights with all of you. So I will have more time for that, as well as more time to work on the barn. I'm going to section off this side of the barn and put a wall right here so that it's a smaller area to heat and cool, and also so I can like fully lock myself into a 100% creative space and not also like storage and tools and lawnmower and everything. It's been nice having the big open space, but the more I've actually been in here using it over the last 10 or 11 months, I guess, the more I've realized how much I benefit from having 4 walls. Like, it's still 4 walls, but you get what I'm saying. Like, being in an enclosed space that is designated for that in order to focus, that helps me a lot. Also, having ADHD medication helps a lot, which I haven't had in like 2 years, maybe, at this point. So that sucks. I still need to try and maybe get that fixed and actually get back on an ADHD medication, but last time I did, it made a huge difference, and I was like, this is amazing. I feel like I can actually focus for the first time. And then they said, there's a shortage. We can't get it anymore. We'll keep trying. And then that went on and went on and went on. And then eventually they were like, yeah, you should probably just, like, you're off of it now. So, you know. So I don't know. We'll see. I might be able to find something, but I also am like really weird about new prescriptions and just being prescribed anything. I'm skeptical, but remembering how much better my focus was, it's becoming a problem where I'm driving myself crazy not being able to focus. So we'll see. Let's see. Do you have any recs for books like All the Days and Nights by Doug Dubois? I mean, other than that book itself, real life dramas by Mary Fry, but not necessarily. Like that's a different. It's a different feel. It's photographs of family and it's in color. Those are where I draw the comparisons. But they're very different. And Christopher Anderson's books like Pia and Son and Marion, the trilogy there, those are also, it's like similar but very different at the same time. Chris Vereen, Family, again very different, but like I'm just looking at the shelf trying to think. Maybe Witness to Beauty in a way by Sage Sawyer. Witness to Beauty is maybe closer, but it's also like meta in a way. Like there are portraits of Sage that there's like humor implemented into it, and that's not what All the Days and Nights is like. Um, Permissions by Emma Hardy. Look into that one as well. That's another. Maybe we'll look at that one next week. I've got to be up early in the morning, so I'm not going to be on here too much longer, but maybe next week we'll take a look at Permissions by Emma Hardy. Because that one I think is very, not, again, similar but different. It's been better, but there's still times the shortage hits. That's what I'm afraid of. That's why I've been skeptical to try and find a new medication, because I think, well, last time it was like, oh, wow, I was learning more about ADHD and, the diagnosis of it, and figuring out, like, things about myself that I just thought, I don't know. All that to say, felt like I made progress, and then that, I had to stop. And so now I'm like, well, I don't want to go through that again because that really sucked. So I'm after the elevated family photo album vibes, a lot like Pictures from Home by Larry Sultan. Okay, then, yeah, real life dramas, reading Raymond Carver, but I believe that's all black and white, if I remember right. Real life dramas is color. If you don't care, get both. Real life dramas by Mary Fry, reading Raymond Carver, Emma Hardy, Permissions. Yeah. Yeah, Chris Vereen, Family, or the self-titled. Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Since you're developing film this weekend, can I drop off some roles for developing? Not this weekend. I've got way too much. I got to develop Tyler's and mine. Oh, I want to make my late dad's building look like a cabin. That'd be amazing. Yes, right now my old office is a playroom for the boys and a game room, but eventually that's going to be Elliot's bedroom. So, have you considered anxiety medication? Yes, they can treat both sometimes and maybe slow your thoughts enough to catch up. So I've been on paroxetine, but that's like generic for Paxil. So I've been on that for like 12 years at this point for anxiety. And my guess, from what everyone has told me, they're like, you've been on it that long, it's probably run its course. Like, it's probably at the point where it's not really doing what it needs to be doing because you've been on it for so long. But that's the only medication I've ever been prescribed for my anxiety. And yeah, 12 years. I mean, I was 23, 22, so I was young, but still, like, my earliest memory is being anxious. You know what I mean? Like, the farthest back I can remember, all I remember is the feeling of panic. So, like, all growing up, I was navigating from that perspective and, did everything I could to blend in, to not be panicking, exterior wise. You know what I mean? So it took me long enough to try one anxiety medication, and I've been on just that one for that long. And so it's, again, one of those things where I think, yeah, I probably should try something different, but my check engine light, I'm real good at ignoring my own check engine light, which is not a good thing. Do not advise it, but especially when you have kids, it's like you just do whatever you do to it's not about you at that point. You know what I mean? I know you can't take care of everyone the best when you're not treating yourself the best and all that. I know I've been in therapy, but you put your kids and everybody else in front of your own when it comes to that kind of stuff. That's not to say it's all white knight, though, of like, oh, I'm just looking after everyone else. There's also like running from it. So I'm not naive enough to think I'm just thinking about everybody else. There's also the denial aspect of all of it. So, yeah, it's. I want to try and find something for the ADHD, but you're right. You bring up a good point. Like for the anxiety, it's probably worth looking into that too on getting something different, or getting something that might be more effective. I don't know. Yeah, absolutely, Evan. That's the thing. It's like you blink and a decade goes by. Nora's 10 now. It makes no sense whatsoever. I think I'm gonna do a video going back, sort of reacting to some of the older videos of mine and just seeing like what holds up. What do I still feel the same about? And maybe what have my thoughts changed on over time? It's not like any person who doesn't have kids don't have a real experience or anything, because that's not it at all. Um, Everyone's experiences are their own unique experiences, but uh, the more each passing year, good and bad things that have happened over the last 11 or so years that I've been on YouTube, you just learn and change so much. And it's really weird watching old videos of myself, and I avoid it at all costs. I never go back and watch any. And I'm thinking about doing a video just trying to get through it, and just kind of reflecting on it and acknowledging the change in all of the ways, I guess. So I think I'm going to try and do that while I film that video one of the days while the kids are in school. I've been rocking a couple of cracked molars while I've been paying off a surgery my son had. Excited to get that finally paid off so I can see a dentist. This ties in exactly to what Molly and I were just talking about last night. Matthew, what's up? Just got off work. Glad I could join in time. We're wrapping up. Right now we're at the closing end here, but you'll have to catch the replay for the books we looked through. Our friend Charles from the chat, he sent in some books for us to look at. Not books of his, but books from Matt Sharkey and Brian Scoopmont. So check those out. But yeah, Molly and I were talking about that last night, because now the kids are at the age where we're going to be looking into eventually braces. I'm sure Molly and I both had braces. Problem for me is had braces, had a permanent retainer on the bottom and top, like on the inside. Both of those broke completely. But also when I was in the hospital, I was like clenched up and tremoring for like a full day, and my teeth were just grinding. Like I couldn't, I wasn't really like conscious doing it, but chipped and just grinded down my teeth a whole lot in various spots. And then have had to get them, like, after that, had to get them filed down even more to, like, sort of level them out a little bit. But because both of the permanent retainers broke off and I didn't have a, not permanent, like the removable kind, and then you've got kids, and it's like, well, we're paying for all of this. It's easy for that stuff to just get pushed off. So I was telling Molly, I'm like, I don't know what my teeth are going to look like in 10 years, 15 years, but I'll deal with it then, because by then all of our kids will have gone through all of it at that point, and now we're at that point. You know what I mean? I'm on duloxetine, and it's helped with anxiety and my OCD tendencies. Appreciate you sharing that. I'll look into that one. because OCD is another thing that I struggle with. Maybe you can watch your old videos on 2x speed to make it more bearable. God, I still don't feel, I mean, I feel comfortable enough to do it, but thinking back to when I first started talking to the camera, and oh my God, Molly couldn't be in the house. Like, I couldn't have her in the house while I was recording, because what if she could hear me? And how embarrassing is that? You know what I mean? Like, it was just such a weird thing. I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I appreciate y'all hanging with me tonight. It's the last day of summer break, like I said. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Me and Forrest have got the day to ourselves until Monday. But, yeah, looking forward to actually getting out with my camera. So if you want to see some videos like I talked about earlier, let me know. Think that's what we'll do. But appreciate y'all hanging with me. If I don't see you in a video until next week, Wednesday, then I will see you all then. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your week. Love you guys. Appreciate you hanging with me. And yeah, see you guys then.